Hi, everybody. So Sunday, I did the second in this series on Mind the Gap, specifically looking at the space between us and how sometimes we can feel that we're drifting away from the people around us, maybe our friends or our family. And I looked at Genesis, and there's that bit after they eat the fruit, and first they go for the fig leaves, and then they hide in a bush, and then God says to Adam, "What's going on?" And he says, "That woman who you sent here, she made me do it." And I was reflecting a bit on how that's almost the separation we can find ourselves. That first they lose the vulnerability and intimacy, so they go for the fig leaves, and then they lose the honesty, so they go and hide in a bush. Then they lose the camaraderie, as Adam can't even say "my wife" or "my partner." He's like, "No, that woman who you sent." And I was saying that I think in our lives we need people that we can do life with, that, like we can do stuff with, that we have this camaraderie with, and we also need a few people who we can be really honest with, and then maybe one or two people who we can be really vulnerable with and completely open with, and we've got to be careful that the space between us doesn't extend, that we always have people we can be honest with. Otherwise, we can find ourselves quite isolated and alone. So it's not just with people we know, but we can also have a space between us if we adopt kind of judgmental attitude to people we don't know. And when we're people watching or out and about, I was saying that's kind of reflected in Genesis. They get a choice of which tree to eat: the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or the tree of life. And if we feed ourselves by criticizing others, if we make ourselves feel good by putting others down, it's like we're feeding on that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that kind of tree where we get to judge what's good and what's not. Whereas the call really is to feed from the other tree, to eat from the other tree, to eat from the tree of life, to know that we are loved and therefore have the security to be able to love others, to be giving people the benefit of the doubt, to be showing mercy. And finally, I finished by thinking about how this space between us, it can make things escalate quite quickly. If we don't watch that space between us in our families or in our friendships, then soon we can become quite estranged. If we build our lives on criticism, then quite quickly we can kind of retreat into our own little polarized tribes and blame everything on the other group. And I was really struck by the fact that in Genesis, pretty quickly the world's full of violence, and we can all scapegoat. We can all kind of say that people who are over there, they're the wrong ones. If only we got rid of them, then everything would be fine. And I was thinking that every time Jesus encountered different groups of people, he treated them with love and compassion. So whereas the Pharisees would say, "Oh, it's all about personal purity. So if you behave the right way, then you're in, and if you don't, then you're out." Well, Jesus went and hung out with the prostitutes, and the Sadducees, who thought it was all about the temple. If you get to the temple and worship in the right way, then you're in, and if you don't, you're out. And Jesus went out to the Samaritan woman, where she would have been welcome in the temple, and changes her life. The Essenes thought, "Oh, we just need to go to the desert and get away from this world." And Jesus says no, and goes and parties and eats and drinks. And the zealots thought, "Oh, we just need to get rid of the Romans. If only we got rid of them, the world would be okay." And Jesus heals the daughter of the centurion. What I was trying to say was that every time people try and draw a line as to who is in and who's out, Jesus crosses that line. He says, "Go and learn what it's meant by I demand mercy, not sacrifice." And that final challenge I left with was that we often have this want to scapegoat, to blame everything on the people out there and over there, and the space between us has grown so we don't even recognize those people over there as any way human. And Jesus says, "No, you need to fight that urge and instead show mercy and compassion and welcome," as he eats with the tax collectors and the sinners, those two groups of people that would have been scapegoated for all the problems. Jesus welcomes them both, eats with them, recognizes their humanity. I think it's why it's so important we have people in our lives who are different from us, who look different and sound different and have different backgrounds and different experiences, so that we always lean towards welcome, lean towards mercy, lean towards love, and fight that space and that gap that can form between us. Hope you have fun as you chat about it. Bye.